All right, so today's session is on process documentation specifically. So we're going to talk about a little bit about each of the process tools. I'm going to explain to you what the tools are, what they're for briefly, and then we're going to zero in on work plans and checklists in this week. And then the following week, we will cover the rest of the tools. So to get to the process tools page, there's two ways to do that. If you've linked processes from the four key functions to your positions on the org chart, then you can go to a position and then you can click the process that you want to document. So I'm going to click this customer complaints, and then this gets me here to this screen. So that's one way of doing it. Another way is to go directly to the four key functions. So now I'm over here on four key functions. Every process that you have in TouchStone will be listed here in the four key functions in one key area or another. So through here, I would go to the key function that my process is in that I want to work on, and then I click it, and then it takes me exactly to this same place. So there's if you can think of this kind of as a loop. There's the org chart, which is all the people. There's the four key functions, which are all the processes. And then when the two come together, you can see that process either from the position or from the four key functions. Now, where we are here, this is where a process is documented. So by documented, I mean you use the tools to the left over here to fully create a step-by-step and all of its necessary parts, with the result being that a person can read through this information, watch videos, memorize it, study it, and they will know how to achieve the result of the process. So that's ideal that a that an employee with the minimum qualifications, so someone I would hire and vet them to make sure they have the minimum qualifications for the position that I'm having them full, that would assume that they then would learn how to handle customer complaints. So here's something to think about overall relating to documenting processes and what is detailed enough and what is not detailed enough, because that always becomes the thing at the end of the day. Is this enough? Did I do this well enough? If you can get to the result where a person with the minimum qualifications for that role that you're hiring would be able to read, study, watch all the tools, all the information in the documented process and know how to do it, then you've achieved the result that you're going for. Now, there's the basics of knowing how to do something, and then there's doing it better and better and better over time through practice. So clearly you have to have some leeway for that. But if you can get to the result where someone with the minimum qualifications can study, read, practice this for a certain period of time, and then they fully know how to do that work, then you've really achieved this ideal situation of having a documented process that you can use for training. Now, if you document the process and you don't do it detailed enough, it doesn't have the correct tools in it, it isn't explained well enough, then you're going to have the experience of putting a qualified person in front of documentation like this and have them not know how to do it. And then the opposite is true. If you hire someone and they don't have the minimum qualifications and you've documented this completely and thoroughly, they're still going to struggle with it because they don't have those minimum qualifications. So we're going to talk more about this concept, but I think it's a good thing to get into the mind of you and anyone else who's going to be documenting processes so you can understand what it means to thoroughly document a process as opposed to just, getting the skeleton of it down or doing it just for the action of doing it, but not really taking it to the full place where you can train with it. So again, this is called the process tools page. I'm going to go through each of these tools briefly and just explain what they are, and then we're going to zero back to work plans and checklists. So a work plan is a step-by-step set of instructions or tasks on how work is done. So it's got a task section where you break down the step-by-step and explain thoroughly how to handle a customer complaint. A checklist, which is right here, is a box checked list. So it's got the little boxes in front of it that is used for compliance or quality control. So it's a way to verify that steps have been done. A script, which is right below this, right below checklists, is a tool to document a conversation or frequently asked questions. It's a way of articulating how somebody says something. The uploaded file tool, which is under scripts, allows you to take Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or PDF documents and upload them to the process. So I'm just giving you an overview. If you're if you're struggling to write notes, I'm going way too fast for that. Before we end today, I'm going to remind you where there's a place in the Resource Center where you can find detailed explanations of each of these tools. So again, uploaded files is a document, spreadsheet, PowerPoint that pertains to the process and is uploaded to the process, similar to Google Docs or Dropbox. The document tool is like a blank Word document. So you see I've got this little form that I've stuck in here and started to make a list. It's really a free-flowing tool. It's the least templated of all of the other tools, and it acts like a blank Word document. The custom form tool is like Google Forms, if you've used that. And it allows you to build this fillable form where you can collect information. You can gauge someone's responses to something. You can prepare if this is an agenda form. So this is a tool that allows you to collect and plan. Next tool down is called a policy note. The policy tool is for documenting rules, safety, legal, compliance, anything, any policy or rule that you have related to this process. So anything that you need to stand out as this is extremely important. And it could be because it's a legal issue. It could also be because it's a company philosophy or a company standard that you really want people to follow. Then we have video, which is right here. Oops. So this is the video tool where you can upload videos to the process, either using your phone if you want to. I don't think anybody has a video camera nowadays. You don't need one to do this. Really simple. Shoot a video with your phone, email it to yourself, and then upload it to TouchStone. Or you can use fancy screen recording software like Loom or anything else you have. And then audio is the same idea as video, except for it's an MP3 file, so it's a flat audio file. So those are all the tools. Not every process uses all these tools. I would say 99% of the time, I would always like to see a work plan. So if I don't see a work plan in a process, my first reaction is, why don't they have a work plan? Even if a process is just one uploaded file, or even if it's a form or just a policy, you should still have a basic work plan explaining how do you use this? Like, what is it here for? And it could be 3 steps if it needs to be. But the work plan is the guide. It's giving you the information about what you need to know to use anything inside of the process. So always default to a work plan first. When you go to document a process, start with the work plan right away. Some processes have checklists, some have scripts, some have files, some have forms, some have videos. It all depends on what's necessary for the process. What tools would complement the work plan? What complexities does the process have that would require a form to be filled out or a policy to be followed? Is it a visual? Could you visually represent it by using a video? So you need to answer those questions as you go. It's perfectly fine to have one work plan, the process is done, and that's it. Probably 20, if I'm just randomly guessing, somewhere around 20% of your processes will be just a work plan, and that's sufficient. It's good enough. You don't need these other tools. So I'm going to be talking about why and when and where you use these other tools as we start to go through them. But the thing to remember about it overall is that they're not always required. They're not always necessary. When when a person is using a process, an employee, they're only going to see the tools that you've used. They're not going to see all of this. So for example, if we go over here and I go to my control panel. So where I'm going now is where people go to use the processes. Where we were before is where they're documented, where the documentation occurs, where the person with create access has created the tools themselves. Here is where somebody uses them. So I'm going to go here to my control panel. And those of you who were here a few weeks ago, you saw this area called my management system. So if I go here like to management philosophy, for example, there's work plans in this process and there's a document tool. And I can expand over here to see them all. There's some documents here and there's a work plan. There's not checklists, there's not videos, none of that is here. And we don't see it here because the person who documented this process didn't use those other tools. So what happens in TouchStone cleans up the interface from this view so that it's very simple and straightforward and you only see what's used. Now, if I was to go to this management philosophy process and I was to go to these documents and delete these three and add a checklist, well, then you would see those tools here through the dashboard. So let's go back to the customer complaint process. So I want to talk about this functionality here regarding the details of the process, and then we'll get into work plans. You always see this screen when you're at the title of the process, like the front of the process. If I click this work plan here, you can see from this breadcrumb trail that I'm now inside the process. That's a way to view it. I'm inside of it. So if I want to get back to the title, I just click this on the breadcrumb trail. It takes me back to the title. So that's a quick way to get back to the details of the process or the title of the process. If I want to edit the process title, I just click right here. And then it opens for me to edit. Super easy. Change the title and then hit save over here or cancel if I decide not to change it. Underneath the title is the objective field. That's this screen right here. Again, it's click to edit. So if I click this, you can see this blue bar will always appear that lets you know that you're editing it. The objective is the purpose of the process. And we've spoke about this in probably all of the trainings. The objectives are essential, in my opinion, because when you see this process in other parts of TouchStone, like on a position through the org chart or through the dashboard, you're not going to see all the tools over here until you click on them or until you click the process itself. So by filling out these objectives, someone is able to read this to resolve and learn from each customer complaint through efficient follow-up and distribution of information. So this is kind of a detailed objective, which I think they're good. It's nothing necessarily wrong with this. You could also do little informal ones like how to handle, customer complaints. So they can be like that, really simple and kind of more straightforward. What you do want to get to with the objectives is this result of someone being able to read it to understand what's in it. The other reason why it's important is when the person is going to document this process. So I added this process, customer complaints to TouchStone, and now I'm going to go to document it. It's good for me to get a handle on the scope of this process. What's going to be in it? That's another way to say it. And that helps me because I can think, where does it start and where does it end and what is everything in between? That's really important because it's easy when you're documenting something to go off in another direction, which could potentially be a whole nother process if you're analyzing it. But if you always remember what the scope is, what the objective is, then you'll know where this starts and where this ends. For example, this says resolve and learn from each customer complaint. I like this resolve and learn because the employee is learning more about how to handle a customer complaint. because it's not always a cut and dry thing. You know, people are people. You might learn something new as you're following the process. You might something else may come out that you think is a skill you could gain or another way to do something. Resolve is an important word because we want this finished. Like we don't want this hanging anymore. Like when you start this process, you're going to take it all the way to the end where the customer is happy, you know, and it's resolved. And then the rest of this through follow up and distribution of information. Handle the complaint through efficient follow-up and distribution of information. So what this tells me is that this process is containing how I follow up to make sure the customer is the issue is handled and how I distribute the appropriate information to make sure that it's gotten to the correct parties. Now, I could have ended it right here, resolve and learn from each customer complaint, period. But then maybe that means um, at the end of it, I pass it off to a manager, and then the manager does their bit for it, and then if the information is distributed to the correct service people. So if I end it there, then I'm not necessarily including those other components. But if I think in advance, I want this to be all the way to the end where we're doing all the follow-up and it has an end of the distribution of information, then I know when I'm documenting this, this is where this ends. So think through these objectives. Sometimes they're super simple. It's like how to do this, period, end of story. But other times, again, if you have intersecting workflows, it can be, you'll have to give it more thought. This toolbar row here, this first icon will make the process public. So on the dashboard over here, there's an area in TouchStone called public through the dashboard. Public means everybody has access to this process, all employees. It's not on one position or another. It's for every employee to be able to access and use. And we're going to talk more about public processes when we get to the session on the dashboard. This icon here will turn the process title black. That's what it's for. So if I uncheck this, it's not complete anymore. And if I go back here to the 4 key functions, you can see this process is blue. So there are 3 colors to processes. There's red, blue, and complete black. Red means there's nothing in this process. It's just a title. No tool has been used. Blue means tools have been used and somebody's documenting it. Black means it's finished. So the more black process you have, the better. The more you can finish, the better. This is done manually. So it turns blue automatically when someone adds a tool. So it goes from red to blue automatically, but the completing of it is manual. So when this has been vetted and approved, you can then click mark complete, and then the process title turns black. This icon here will allow you to link a process to a position on the org chart or unlink it. So everyone that's in gray here, this process is not on their position. Every position in orange, this means I've linked this position to it. I can link and unlink just by clicking. Click, now it's on the service manager. Click, now it's not. Let's close this. This icon is delete the process. So you can delete a process from the 4 key functions list, or you can delete it from the process itself. If you delete the whole process, then the whole process is deleted. Only administrators can delete, so they're the only ones that have this trash box illuminated. And the assumption is that an administrator is somebody who has full access to TouchStone and is trusted to decide if something needs to be deleted or not. Having said that, if you have an administrator who accidentally deletes something, we can always restore it. The backups in TouchStone are substantial. So if you have an emergency and someone accidentally deletes it, then you can call us and we will restore it for you. Having said that, make sure that you're mindful before you delete a whole process right here. So let's go to the left here, and let's talk about the basics first of a work plan. So if I want to build a work plan, I click this, and then I'm prompted for the title of the work plan. When you click, it illuminates, and then you want to create the title of the work plan. So let's call this follow-up. You want to define through the objective with a how to or something more elaborate, and then you hit create work plan. Now you can see to the left here that I have this new work plan right here. Processes sometimes have one work plan and sometimes they have 5 work plans. So how to decide this is to think to yourself, does this process have multiple components to it? Does it have multiple workflows that need to occur that each have their own beginning and end? Or is it just one series of steps that go from beginning to end and that's it? Oftentimes, the objective, this, can help guide you if it's going to have multiple parts or not. So if you think through, okay, the customer complaints comes in, the receptionist gets that call, what do they do? They have a series of steps, then it gets pushed off to the operations manager, or it gets sent to the sales manager. So you're thinking through these parts, and then at that point, that person picks it up and does something with it, and then they finish it out. Or maybe that person does something with it, and then they have to distribute the information to someone else. So when thinking through the structure of the process, you can easily see often if it has multiple parts. So look for the beginnings and the ends. So in this example I just gave, there could be a work plan that says receiving a customer complaint. Then there could be a work plan that says manager resolution. Then there could be a work plan that says follow-up. So that is an example of multiple parts of something. Or it can be one work plan with the beginning and the end. So this is not an exact science. It often depends on the process itself. Typically speaking, more complex processes tend to have multiple parts to them. Simple processes tend to have one work plan and that's sufficient. If you ever are struggling with this and you just can't figure it out, email us and we'll have someone sit with you. And within 10 minutes, we could tell you and give you guidance on, is this multiple work plans? Is this just one work plan? Sometimes you'll start with one work plan and you'll take a look at all your tasks and say, oh, this really is multiple parts. Then you can break it apart. Build another work plan and then start building tasks inside that second work plan. So just because you start with one doesn't mean you can't break it apart later, or just because you've broken it apart doesn't mean that you can't, combine it. So let's go to this work plan. So just some of the basics about the structure of a work plan. If you want to start to build the work plan, you start by adding a task. So click Add Task, and then I click the Untitled field, and then this opens. So this becomes Task 1. Then I save it, and then I hit Add Task again, and then this becomes Task 2. So the reason I'm showing you this is this work plan template forces you into step by step by step. And we researched plenty of ways to structure work plans, action plans, and this is by far the best way because if there's just one field, like say this was just one task field, and I had to put in the steps myself, now I'm building this based on whatever I think. The structure is whatever I like. It's not a template, right? So you're just someone scrolling through, a Word document and just creating it all on their own. That's not the best way to have consistent, usable documentation. You want to go step by step by step. You want to force the employee or whoever's documenting it into a clear, delineated step by step because that's the best way to document. It's the best way to articulate information. And more importantly, it's the best way for people to learn it. If you just start randomly scrolling in information, then it's harder for someone to learn from that type of documentation. So really follow this step by step. Another thing that happens in TouchStone itself is each of these tasks, things can be done with those tasks in other areas of TouchStone. So that's another reason for the templated step by step. If you want to go back to a task, you just click and then that task opens. You can't have more than one task open on a time. So if I click this, it's not opening because we want to make sure that you're finished out with the task that you're working on, and then you hit save. You can't move away from it until it's saved, and you put the task in. This toolbar row is very similar to most word processing that you're probably used to. I wouldn't necessarily mess with the font and the font type, because if you do that, then you're building inconsistency. So there's a system font, which I think it's Times New Roman, or maybe it's Arial. And then there's the font size, which is 12 point, which is a good font size for the internet as well as if you print. So stick with the font type and size, just because if you change it, then this work plan will have a different font and font size. If someone else goes to another work plan and starts to document that one, they may use the system's font, and now you've got different font types. This is troublesome to some people and maybe not others, but I think consistency is best. You've got bullets and sub-bullets within the tasks. So all this should be familiar to you. There's two things that are special in this toolbar. One is the image uploader, which is this icon right here. So images are great for documentation. You could take a screenshot of how something's supposed to look, and then you can insert that into TouchStone. And if you can build a visual, then it's, much better for documentation if somebody can see, what something is supposed to look like. So you can take images and drag and drop them, or you can search for them using this icon. So I'm going to use this one just because it's up here. This is a snipping tool that's built into the Windows operating system. I think, sorry. Macs have their own version of this. Here you just choose new, and then I can take this little crosshairs appear, and I could take a little snippet of something like this, and then it pops up. And then here's my picture. Once I get it into this screen capture tool, I can use these tool colors above to highlight things if I want to. What I don't like about this is that it's very hard to draw. You can see it's like a child's drawing or write text, but this is the free version. Then I just copy it, and then all I do is go to the task. Your cursor, you want to put your cursor where you want the task to appear, and then I can just do right click, paste, and then that image then appears in the task. You can see it right here. What I'm doing to make you be able to see this whole thing is in the bottom right corner, there's this drag. So you can drag to make your task bigger if you're putting in images and you want to see the whole thing. Once the image is in here, if I just click on it, I can also go like this to make it bigger or smaller. And then when I hit save, then this is what the image looks like. There are other screen capture tools I should have pulled. I use one called from Smith Tech. I'll just pull it up real quick to show you because this is something I use almost every day. Smith Tech, their version of this, shoot, I can't remember. It's called Capture. It's that easy. So it's made by Smith Tech, who also makes Camtasia, which is really robust screen capture. I'm sorry, video recording software. But this Smith Tech tool, they have a free version of it. I think I paid $20 for this one. It's not a subscription. It's like you just pay it once. So with this one, if I hit capture here, I get these crosshairs and I can take a screen capture just like the other one. But this has, fancier tools. So I can do an arrow like that, which is kind of cool. Then I can change the color of my arrow just by hitting this little color. I can do text in it. I'm still an arrow. So I can do like this and then type in text right here. And then I can change the color of my text and the size of it and the color of the box itself. So this is typing. You remember this here, there's no way to do a text in that. Maybe the Mac version of this is better, but in the Windows operating system, the free version's not great. I can do like a shape, so make a circle on that. I can highlight, you get the point. So this is way fancier. And then it's the same idea. I just hit copy here. There's no reason to save these because once you put them into TouchStone, they're saved in TouchStone. And then I just go paste and then boom, there's that image. What you don't want to do is just do like a print screen and then cut and paste that whole print screen into here. There's no reason for that. Practice with a snipping tool and then take these little pictures. When you're trying to show a step by step for something and you can do little snippet of what the person needs to be looking at and then the explanation of what's happening, it's really great. If you have a picture that you've taken with your phone, then again, you can email it to yourself, download it to your computer, and then use this icon to then find it on your desktop and then insert the picture. The next different thing about this toolbar row is the hyperlink tool. So that's this little sideways chain here. So if I want to make a hyperlink, I highlight the link word. So I've highlighted whatever word that I want to turn blue to be the link word that someone would click on. And then I go here to this hyperlink tool. I hit the drop down and I see all the different link types. The first link type is called a URL link, and that is to link to something that lives on the internet. So something outside of TouchStone. Any web tool can link to TouchStone, and it does that through these hyperlinks. So you could be on a whole nother web software system like Loom or Zoom, and you can copy the URL. And then when somebody clicks that, as long as they're past the username and password screen, it'll take them right to that screen. It will also link to websites and, again, anything on the internet. So if I click this URL link, it's asking me for the address. The best way to do this is to go and highlight the address here, copy. So go to that, whatever tool it is, whatever page you want to be on, and right click, copy the whole URL, then go back to TouchStone and just paste it. This is by far the easiest way because it'll get the whole HTTPS and whatever backlinks are to that page without you having to type it in. And then I just hit insert. And then when I save it, this becomes the link. You can right click on these links and it'll open in a second window. But whatever link you put, when this is clicked, it'll take a person to that link. This is far better than putting in the whole, cut and pasting the URL. So like if I didn't do that and I just pasted this URL in, there's lots of extra text there, which don't make it as clean. So I think you can do this and it'll work. If I save this, this will be a hyperlink. But I think this is way better because you're making it more tidy. When you go to print things, it looks nicer. Another type of link that you can do is a link inside of TouchStone. So it's internal. It's an internal link, not an external link. So I again would highlight the word. It's not letting me highlight it. We'll go to this one and I go to the hyperlink tool, again, hit the drop down. So I can link internally to another process. So a whole nother process inside of TouchStone. I can link to a work plan, to a checklist. So the link I want to make, I choose the form it's in. Is it a whole process or is it a work plan? Then if I clicked work plan and hit the drop down, now I'm seeing all my work plans in TouchStone in alphabetical order. So I go to that work plan I want to link to and I hit insert. Then that hyperlink will take the person who clicks on it to that tool that you're linking to. What's very common is if you have other tools in the process itself. So if I have work plans here, but let's say I also have a script, I might want to link to that script from the work plan. So I could say, use this script, and then I link to the script, or fill out this form, and I link to the form. That way, when someone's learning the process, they can go through the steps of the work plan and they can go, oh, the checklist, I have to link to the checklist. And they click the link and it goes right to it. They're going to see it in the process itself. They'll see the checklist or whatever, but the link will guide them to where that tool is pretty easily. And then you're also making sure that you're giving the instructions on how these other tools are used. So if you've got a form, how is that used and when and where? Or if you have a script, when is that used and when and where? The work plan will guide you with it or to it. It's also common to have a link that's a process that's to another process. So here, if I click process, now I'm seeing all the processes in TouchStone in alphabetical order. And again, I would choose which process I want to link to and hit insert. So I just flip this flag from work plan to processes. How this is common is if you want to show information from another process that is necessary for the person to know to complete the task they're on. So an example, I think a good example is if this is a work plan on how to do follow-up for a customer complaint, and at some point during this, I need to add the follow-up to our CRM so I remember, to follow up with them. I have to make an appointment. Rather than saying the steps of that in this work plan, like how to create a follow-up appointment in the CRM, I would just go to the CRM process. And within that process, there should be instructions on how to create a follow-up appointment. Because follow-up appointments are probably done in numerous processes all across the company. So if I build the steps of how to do a follow-up appointment in this work plan in customer complaints, well, I don't want to do it that way because those steps on how to create an appointment, I'm going to have to duplicate that in 5 other processes. And then when I go to update it, if I need to, then I got to remember all the processes it's in. So the best way to do it is to have a whole process called follow-up appointment creation or whatever you call it, and then just hyperlink to it in every process that needs to perform those tasks. Okay, let me click this open again. So a couple other things about the toolbar. Again, you saw me stretch up and down here. When I click inside of it, if I'm going below, the scroll bar will appear so I can scroll up and down. When you're finished with the task, hit save. If you want to cancel what you've done, hit cancel. If you want to delete that task altogether, hit delete, say okay, and now that task is gone. If you delete a task, well, there's probably is a way to recover it. Let's just say there's not. There probably is, but don't delete a task unless you're sure. If you don't hit cancel or save, it's going to remind you to come back and do one of the things, either cancel, save, or delete. Tasks can be reordered just by drag and drop. So if I want to make 3-1 here, this one's a little messy because it's got this image in it, but you see what happened. I just drag up and drag down and I can adjust the order. I can also adjust the order of my tools. So if I want to make this number 1, I can pull up and down to readjust the order of these tools. Let's talk about this toolbar. So this icon will allow you to go to our AI to generate a work plan. So this tool uses ChatGPT or AI to then give you an example of whatever it is that you're searching for. So let's say, for example, I want to see an example of a follow-up script for customer complaints or a follow-up process for customer complaints. I don't have any idea how to do this myself, and I just want to get an idea, something to get me going. I would go to the AI here. The prompt is already created. Create a step-by-step for follow up for customer complaints. You can even go in let's do HVAC company. So the more detailed you are here in your explanation, the better your results are going to be. So if you can put in your industry right here, then you're likely to get results that are relative to your industry. Then I just hit go, and now it's generating. Even though I spelled follow wrong, it's still doing it. So this is what it's generated. Contact the customer to acknowledge receipt of their complaints and ensure it gets addressed. Assign a technician to investigate. So you see how it's doing assign a technician because I said it would be in an HVAC company. Follow up with the customer. If you don't like what it's returning here, you can go back to the prompt and you can change the prompt and make it more detailed. So you can say in a different kind of a company, in a service business that might produce different results. So again, go back and redo until you like what it's given you, and then you can hit add to work plan. This, I had already built tasks here, and so it's adding it to my existing work plan. So if I look down here, you can see there's all the tasks. Once it's in TouchStone, you can then click to edit them. My mouse is funky today. So then you can open and edit it. So anything you don't like here, you feel free to go in and edit. One of the things I noticed about the AI is it uses, a lot of descriptive language. So contact customer to acknowledge their complaint, apologize for any inconvenience. So sometimes people will go in and just simplify this a little bit if you wanted to, add more to it. This tends also to be kind of an overarching task. So another thing you can do is then bullet point and say a little bit more about how, like call them, or you could say, or email them, whatever you would prefer. So you can put a little bit more details about what is going on when you're acknowledging their complaint. So that's the AI and how that can work. You have to build a work plan first. So if this was, if I just hit this to add a new work plan, I can't get to the AI until I put in the title. So put in a title of what it is that you're attempting to do, like follow up or maybe just customer complaints. Then once you click on that, you're going to see the AI tool here. The next is Scribe, and you've all seen me use this before. Scribe is another way to build a work plan that you're not doing yourself. So I'm going to run out of time here today to go through Scribe again, but I'm going to do it again before our conversation on the tools is over because I want to save time for checklists. But Scribe is basically allowing you to use a tool called Scribe, and I can click here to get to Scribe. Scribe is a screenshot capture tool where you can go and open up a tool like Facebook or Trello or whatever it is you're using, and it will create a step-by-step as you're clicking through, and then you can insert the code, the embed code, which is really easy to copy, and then that Scribe work plan will be in TouchStone. This tool will allow you to convert a work plan to a checklist. So if I click this and say, okay, then this work plan, this follow-up work plan is now a checklist, and you see it down here. And we'll take a look at that here in a minute, but it will take the step-by-step of a work plan, the task, and it will convert it into a checklist with the tick boxes that can be completed. This icon here will allow you to move a tool out of a process into another process. So if you want to combine two processes, or somewhere else where this is common is if you download a library process from us and then you want to take something inside of it but not keep the whole thing, you can move a tool out of it into your own and then delete the library process. So that's how you move a tool. This is our printing icon, which will create a PDF for you, or it will allow you to hit the print button and create your own PDF or just print directly. This is our archive. So this allows you to keep versions of your tools. So if you want to archive a tool, you just click archive. It's going to say, do you want to archive it? You say yes. Now a version of that work plan in its current version has now been put in the archive, which I can see over here if I click archived. So there's that copy in a sense of this work plan. And you see the date and time. If I want to restore it, I can click here to restore it. If you go to edit or change anything, I think it's a really great idea to archive it first because then you can always compare how you've changed it or restore it if you decide you don't want to keep it anymore or you want to go back to the later version. This is delete. I want to delete this. It says okay. Now that work plan is gone. But if I want to restore it, I can go here to deleted and I can restore it. There it is. And I can hit this and it restores it. So this trash can, in a way, is available for the process tools. If you delete the whole process, then again, the process is gone and only administrators can do that. Create access users who are able to document processes can delete any of the tools that they've built or anyone else has built, but you can go and restore them from the deleted folder. So there's always that safeguard. All right, so let's talk a few minutes about what makes a good work plan. So we talked about technically how to build work plans, getting help from AI, embedding with Scribe, or just building a step-by-step work plan. So here are some techniques that I think are good ones. There's always this question of, is there enough detail? Is there not enough detail? So this is a good example of that. Determine whether this is a warranty issue. So if I'm an experienced customer service person, I've had 10 years of customer service experience. I've worked in a home services business or an HVAC company or construction company or whatever it is for 5 years. I've dealt with warranty issues before. All of this has like been vetted before I'm hired. Then this might be enough, determine whether this is a warranty issue. I should probably know how to do that if I'm all those things that I said I was. But if you don't hire someone with all of those capabilities and experience, you want to get a younger, maybe less expensive person, and you want to train them, with your own documentation on how to be a good customer service person, well, then this is not enough information. Determine whether this is a warranty issue. So what it's missing is that how do I do that, right? What are the details of how I do that? This task here, gather this information, client name, phone number, location of job performed, work service was performed, and any other details as necessary to help you address the situation. Boy, that's like a mouthful, right? I look at that and I'm like, whoa, okay, what do I do there? Or this task down here. Anything that's in paragraphs of information with sentence after sentence, when you look at it, you immediately start to get overwhelmed with it because you want to learn. I want to learn what this is saying, but it's much harder because it's like this run-on sentence. So this goes to the point of make it step by step. Make it simple steps. Make it simple actions where my eye can go right to the outline of it and I can maybe even do those things as I'm reading it. So you can easily turn something like this into what I'm talking about. So this says gather this information. Well, maybe we throw a little colon there and then we put some bullets in, and now I'm breaking everything with a comma up into bullet points. And then, and any other details. Well, then I go here and, in the interest of time, I'm just going to do this. You can even do like a sub bullet of a bullet. So you see how I did that? You just tab it in and then I can do, more details right here having to do with this bullet above. And now when I save it, you see how much different that looks? It's like I'm seeing it in a list. So you can literally take that paragraph of information and, if possible, break it into chunks. It may not always be as easy as this with a list, but you could still take sections of information and break it apart a little bit, with the idea being that someone could follow their eye along with it and do it as they're reading it, or at least understand the simple piece of how to do it as they go through it. Stray away from lots of flowery language, like lots of adjectives and verbs describing things in kind of a visual representation of it. Stay away from that, because that kind of writing, again, it tells a nice story, but you can't learn from a story. A story is more entertaining and it creates images in your mind, but you then can't take those images and perform actions. So one yeah, but that people say when I go into this is, well, the more complicated something is, the harder it is to do what I'm suggesting. And I know that's true, but it's still possible. I've seen the most complicated of processes created in a story-like paragraphs of information. I've seen that on, how to do surgery and built into, then taken and built into an outline. and it becomes way more efficient. In back at the beginning of my career, I was an efficiency expert, and we would go in and take very complicated things and build them into outline format using oftentimes the same information, and it would speed up the efficiency by 50%. So when you're writing your work plans, think clear, usable language, and build it into an outline if you have to, with bullets and sub-bullets. They really work well. Even if something's not a list, bullets and sub-bullets can break it apart to allow people to see connections. You can do if-thens in a work plan. So locate the customer's invoice. If you can't locate the invoice, ask the customer. So this is if you can't, then do this. That's perfect in work plans. There's a lot of times if-thens then guide the person learning this into if you get stuck, then do this. So use that language specifically in your tasks, if then. Sometimes you get into if-thens where it's locate the customer's invoice. If you can't locate it, then do bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. Then loop back to where you left off. If you can locate the customer's invoice, then do this. That's perfectly fine. You're doing like an elongated if-then with one set of bullet points that lead them in one direction in one scenario, and the other set, you're kind of going back to the beginning and saying, if you can locate it, then do this. And you break those bullets apart. This is a good example of the use of another tool. So if this is a warranty issue, follow the warranty and guarantee policy. So this is a link to the policy that's right here. This could be a whole nother work plan. If this is a warranty issue, follow the step-by-step warranty work plan. And there could be, a list to it here. So what's also happening here is I've decided that this idea of deciding if something's a warranty or using the warranty process is not a part of this work plan. You get to a place in this work plan where that has to be done, but there's way more that goes on in that I'm going to throw into a policy to make it stand alone. Because someone may just decide to zoom down to the policy inside of a process. Say they're doing a customer complaint, they've done it 1,000 times. They don't need to look at the work plan, but they forgot, oh, the policy changed, or let me look at the policy. So they'd go to their dashboard or they'd search for it and go right to the policy and click it. If you bury that in the work plan, then I won't know, unless I do a keyword search, I won't know where to find the guarantee and warranty policy because it's its own, if it's not its own tool. Here's another example of a task that looks way too complicated, and it's also throwing into it like things I say. If this is not a warranty issue, explain to the employee or simply a job that is not well done, try to ask the customer and understand the real problem. Ask what they're unhappy about. Like, I hear that this didn't go well. What happened? If they complain about the tech, ask, you can see where it's like, even when I'm reading it to you, it's a lot of information. And I'm thinking, oh God, what if I can't make them happy? And then I'm scrolling through this task trying to find what to do. What's way better is, first of all, this it has a script in it, right? So I hear it didn't go well. What happened? So this is words that someone speaks. So I mean, I'd much rather see this be in a script, like over here, an FAQ script. Oops. So this is the scripting template. And I could go here and add a script item that says, ask why they're unhappy, right? So that's the question, save. And then here the script is paste. I hear that didn't go well. What happened? So if you build it in the scripting tool, you're taking it out of the complexity of that work plan, and then you were seeing it in a different format here. Ask why they're unhappy. I could scroll down on a script like this and find what I'm looking for if I can't remember, way better than having it be in the tasks way down here, at the bottom. So when you clean something like this up, you can then, if this is a warranty issue or an employee issue, so you can take all the words out that are related to scripting or anything after ask, and then you can just say, use the script, and you put in your script title there. Then we go here to the hyperlink, and we go hyperlink, and then we click and look for the script that we're looking for. We find it, we hit insert, we hit save. And now this is like way better, right? If it's not a warranty issue, use this script if the customer's still unhappy. This is another example of that. If this is not a warranty issue, proceed to the customer complaint form. So this is a form inside a TouchStone. When I click this link, then it goes to this form, which is right here. So let me go back here. Underneath the tasks of a work plan, I gotta get a new mouse. There's this section called expectations. So in the expectations section, this is for anything that you want to say about this step-by-step work plan that isn't a part of the tasks. So it's not a part of actions or things I need to be thinking about with actions. They are things like subjective elements to the process, or timing, like this one, resolved within 24 hours. Extra things you need to say to build context for it. These kinds of things can be in scripts, like listen to the customer's complaints, stay calm and respectful. But it can also be here in expectations, like the last thing you want your employees to always be thinking, I am calm, I am respectful. There's nothing this customer is going to say or do that's going to rile me up. And so when they're learning this, that could be highlighted as, like the number one expectation. Make it a game. Don't let them upset you. And that's a expectation. The why of something. Dealing with dealing with complaints effectively can save you from or us from a bad reputation. So dealing with customers effectively can save us from having bad reviews on Yelp, or can save us from them telling 10 other people that we did a crappy job and hurting our reputation. This is called context. So you can teach your employees all day long the step-by-step of how to do something. And, oftentimes they'll follow it, especially if it works well, but sometimes they won't. And they'll just go off and start doing their own thing. And you may come back and say, why aren't you following the process? This customer is still pissed. Why didn't you resolve it like the process said? Oh, well, I thought I did. And so all these kind of things come up that have to do with management, by the way. But if I can say to the employee when they're learning this, if you don't do this way, then we get bad Yelp reviews, and that hurts our reputation immensely because people scroll through Yelp and they decide, am I going to use this company or not? And if we have them post a bad review, then that hurts our business and hurts your job and hurts our bonuses and, however you want to explain it. Then that provides context. The employee really gets it. Like, I got to play this game. I got to do this well because the impact of this is great to the company. So always think of these little context ideas because oftentimes it'll keep someone following and doing something in the way that you've laid it out to be versus not doing it because they understand the why of it. So any kind of expectations that you can think of, timing, subjective things, any kind of context things, then put them here in the expectations fields.